Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 racing games of all time. For this list, we're putting a spotlight on the best racing games ever made, whether it was for their creative take on the genre, their excellent controls and track design, or a sweet roster of cars and characters. Did your favorite racing game make the list? Let us know in the comments below. Number 20, Grip Combat Racing. Those seeking a modern racing game with more opportunities for stunts, look no further. Grip Combat Racing is all about flipping while racing. As you try to shoot down and boost past your opponents, you'll come across ramps and obstacles to help you pull off sweet moves. If you're wanting things to get absolutely insane, zipping over green pads will increase your speed. Admittedly, the game may have a bit of a learning curve when it comes to its physics, but there's nothing more satisfying than seeing your car recover from what could have been a nasty crash. Number 19, Hotshot Racing.
This is living!
Longing for the days of classic racing games from 90s arcades? Hotshot Racing comes from Sumo Digital, a studio with an extensive history of developing racing games, another of which we'll get to in a bit. As for 2020's Hotshot Racing, players relish the game's roster of unique characters, Dreamcast-like visuals, and enthralling drift mechanics. You can even spend your hard-earned winnings to customize the different rides each character has at their disposal. Needless to say, Hotshot Racing is both a nostalgia trip and a solid dose of high-octane racing. With a high enough difficulty, it'll definitely give you a run for your money. Number 18, Wipeout Omega Collection. This compilation title showcases the best of the series. A remaster of Wipeout HD, its expansion Wipeout HD Fury, and Wipeout 2048, the Wipeout Omega Collection boasts the biggest roster of anti-gravity vehicles and tracks in the franchise's history.
New lap record. Final lap.
Not only that, but there's a wealth of game modes to test your skills, from single races and time trials to tournaments and elimination races. Couple that with the immersive VR mode, and Wipeout Omega Collection is a must-have for PS4 owners and racing game fans. Number 17, Horizon Chase World Tour and Horizon Chase Turbo. Whether you're playing the original mobile version or the enhanced console port, Horizon Chase Turbo scratches that itch for racing games in the vein of classics like Outrun while offering a plethora of content to keep you busy. Players can tour the globe and compete in 12 different countries, take part in challenging endurance races, or just participate in a simple tournament. And you can do all this using a massive roster of cars, some of which reference pop culture vehicles like the DeLorean from Back to the Future or the Batmobile. Alternatively, you can decimate and embarrass the competition with something more absurd or outdated. Number 16, Blur. When it released in 2010, Blur sadly came and went like, well, a blur. The game sought to fuse the aesthetic of street racing games with the gameplay of kart racers. What resulted was a fantastic blend of fast-paced action and multiplayer mayhem, which makes it even more disheartening to know that the game was not a commercial success. Despite receiving stellar reviews from critics and seeing a healthy amount of marketing from publisher Activision, Blur only managed to sell 31,000 copies in its first 5 days. This was most likely because it released at the same time as two other racing games that were equally trailblazing. Number 15, SSX Tricky. What is it about this snowboarding game that makes it so memorable? Sure, that Run DMC theme song is catchy, but there's more to it than that. In addition to including remix versions of courses from previous games, SSX Tricky hosted a colorful cast of characters to pull off sick tricks and uber moves.
Nothing. Do a sailfish.
What's even cooler was how it incorporated a rivalry system, where some characters may act favorably if you play nice, or take umbrage with you if you employ dirty tactics. With all this in mind, it's no wonder this is widely regarded as not just one of the best racing games, but the best snowboarding game too.
All I know is that's a sweet, funky, dope maneuver.
Number 14, Wave Race 64. Before we entered that period when seemingly everyone and their mom was getting a kart racing game, Wave Race 64 appeared and blew everyone out of the water. Literally. Not only did the game boast excellent controls and level design, but it also featured some of the most realistic water physics and visuals we had ever seen. Well, at the time, that is. Regardless of its now dated graphics, Wave Race 64 is one of the few retro racing games that has stood the test of time. It has sold nearly 2 million copies in the United States alone and still offers replay value to this day.
You're about 4 seconds ahead.
Number 13, ModNation Racers. If you ever fantasized about creating your own racing game, this release was a dream come true. ModNation Racers gave users the ability to design their own kart racer, featuring a wide array of customization options for racers, karts, and tracks. On top of that, it boasted an exceptional and hilarious story mode that rewarded you with even more parts for your creations. With such versatility and a strong player base, there was plenty of reasons for us to keep coming back. And it was this experience that has many begging for a sequel. Number 12, Split Second. We don't know what's more surprising, the fact that this was an original game published by Disney Interactive Studios, or the fact that it was incredibly fun to play. A street racer centered on drifting and building a meter, Split Second treads on very familiar ground. That being said, rather than using the meter for boosting, Split Second shook up the formula by having its power play meter instead trigger track manipulation. Filling up portions of your meter will allow you to open up shortcuts, or better yet, trigger environmental hazards to destroy the competition. No, it doesn't always run as well as we'd like, but its visuals hold up, and the mayhem makes Split Second a thrilling experience. Number 11. Sonic and Allstars Racing Transformed. The first Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing had some pretty cool ideas, but it felt too much like Nintendo's famed racing franchise. Its sequel, on the other hand, managed to distinguish itself in several ways, and not just by adding odd guest characters.
Ice.
This time around, tracks can alter themselves, forcing players to change between cars, boats, and planes. You can also unlock different mods for racers, so you can control your favorite character with a playstyle that suits your tastes. It may not have dethroned the plumber, but this was still a solid entry in Sonic's racing career. Number 10. Daytona USA. It wasn't one of Sega's most successful arcade games for nothing. At the time of its release, Daytona USA was one of the most visually impressive games on the market. Its smooth models and detailed textures achieved a sense of realism most video games had yet to reach. It was also another noteworthy example of Sega's iconic sound design and music. Really, you'll be singing Daytona every time you boot up the game. Even though the console ports weren't as good as the original arcade version, Daytona USA has gone down as one of the most influential games in both racing and game development. Number 9. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. While the Need for Speed franchise has fluctuated in terms of quality, Hot Pursuit is the one we continue coming back to. The game takes all the right cues from both Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit and Hot Pursuit 2. Players can take part in missions involving street races and avoiding the law, or defecting and shutting these races down. While there isn't any car customization, Hot Pursuit shines with its moment-to-moment gameplay, giving players multiple opportunities to wreck enemies with flair. Hopefully, future Need for Speed titles will take a page from this one. Number 8. Diddy Kong Racing. This was one kart racer that no one could afford to sleep on in the 90s. Diddy Kong Racing provided an experience no other racing title was ambitious enough to try at the time, incorporating multiple vehicles into its gameplay to give the handful of tracks great replay value. It even came with a comprehensive adventure mode that provided a steady increase in difficulty, especially when it came to the silver token races. Combine that with the creative mini-games, and Diddy Kong Racing was yet another multiplayer classic on the Nintendo 64. Had Nintendo acquired Rare when it had the chance, we probably could have had a sequel by now. Number 7. FZero GX. This was the franchise at its highest point. While the GameCube wasn't exactly a console known for its high-end graphics, this was a title that showed its potential. GX achieved a consistent 60 frames per second while rendering detailed textures and maintaining the insane speed. It would also go down as the hardest game in the franchise, with its plethora of sharp turns and ruthless AI. Despite winning a few awards from gaming outlets, this would be the last F-Zero game Nintendo would make, effectively turning Captain Falcon into the guy from Smash Brothers. Number 6. R4, Ridge Racer Type 4. The Ridge Racer franchise has seen its fair share of ups and downs, but Ridge Racer Type 4 was a major step forward. This was the first time the game utilized garage shading, giving the game more realistic lighting and shadows. It also focused more heavily on power sliding, forcing players to time their turns and refine their steering. It was simple, challenging, arcade racing fun, and we wouldn't want it any other way. Besides, unlocking all the cars got you a cute Pac-Man car. Who wouldn't want a car modeled after Pac-Man? Number 5. Burnout Paradise. Where would modern racing games be without Burnout Paradise? Rather than going through menus for game modes, players were thrown into a massive world obsessed with street racing. Races were more non-linear, allowing players to access any shortcuts found and attempt to correct wrong turns. If you wanted to take a break from racing, you could explore Paradise City to your heart's content, smash through billboards, or attempt jumps. Truly, this was a playground meant for racing fans, and it would pave the way for other franchises to follow suit. Number 4. Crash Team Racing. Crash Bandicoot's racing career may not be as prolific as Nintendo's mustachioed star, but Crash Team Racing remains a strong competitor. It isn't enough to simply rely on items and boost pads. CTR requires full use of drift boosting if you want to take home the gold, and it can be hard to pull off. However, it's this learning curve that reels players in. The mechanic is easy to learn, but difficult to master. Using shortcuts is risky because messing up could cost you the lead. It may be the hardest of the mainstream kart racers, but that's what makes CTR such a beloved title. If only the remake had better online connectivity for us to race with friends. Number 3. Gran Turismo. The Gran Turismo franchise has seen a good amount of success throughout its lifespan. For all the innovations that we've seen in the sequels, however, this is one of those properties that keeps us coming back to the first installment. The classic Gran Turismo offered an impressive assortment of cars for you to drive across its detailed environments. Even though many players found the game to be tougher than its contemporaries, the tight controls and upgrade system kept us powering through. To this day, Gran Turismo is widely regarded as one of the original PlayStation's best racing titles, having sold more than 10 million copies. Number 2. Forza Horizon 4. For the last decade, we've been getting a new Forza game practically every year. By this point, one would think the franchise would grow stale, and yet we're still playing Forza Horizon 4. Much like Burnout Paradise, Horizon 4 gives players an open world to drive around and race in. But its top-notch design isn't the only reason players return. Since launching in 2018, the game has received a wealth of updates, adding in new vehicles and timed events to compete in. You just don't see this amount of support for racing games these days, which makes Horizon 4 something truly special.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure to go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. While this is simply an expanded version of the original Mario Kart 8, which was released on Wii U, we're giving this Switch version the top spot for a few reasons. In addition to including all the DLC released in the original game, Deluxe came with a handful of new characters, improved visuals and controls, and best of all, it fixed that god-awful battle mode by including 8 new maps. At the time of this video, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has become the best-selling Switch game, clocking in at almost 30 million copies sold. Really, who doesn't have this game?
In the mood for more awesome gaming content? Be sure to check out this video here on Mojo Plays. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.